killing that has all the hallmarks of a brutal gangland hit. But according to police, the victim is far from an underworld figure.
4 gunshots shattered a quiet Sydney afternoon on May 22, 2023. Marvin Oraiha, 24 years old, died in his car in Elizabeth Hills. Within hours, 2 getaway cars were burning in nearby suburbs. The killers vanished. But here's what investigators discovered. This wasn't just another gang murder. This was a meticulously planned execution, orchestrated by someone pulling strings from behind bars. After 2.5 years of intensive investigation, NSW police finally charged the mastermind. This is the story of how one organized crime network turned a suburban street into a battlefield, and how detectives pieced together one of Sydney's most complex gang murders. The murder. On Monday, May 22, 2023, Marvin Oraiha spent his afternoon shopping at Westfield on Pitt Street in central Sydney with his girlfriend. Security cameras captured something disturbing. 2 men were watching him. They leaned against a railing overlooking the escalators, constantly checking their phones while tracking his every movement. At 1:10 p.m., these surveillance operatives texted updates to someone coordinating the operation. By 3 p.m., the execution machinery was already in motion across Sydney's western suburbs. A man wearing a black Under Armour hoodie parked his black Mercedes on Boomerang Road in Edensor Park. He retrieved a bag from a dark-colored Toyota Kluger and returned to his vehicle. That bag contained the murder weapon. At 3:35 p.m., the Mercedes met a white Audi on Eber Avenue in Elizabeth Hills, just minutes from Oraiha's home. 2 men got out of the Mercedes, one carrying the backpack. They climbed into the Audi. The Mercedes driver left, returning to Edensor Park. The Audi moved to Hertfordshire Street and waited. Around 4 p.m., emergency services received reports of shots fired on Hertfordshire Street. Police from Liverpool City Police Area Command arrived to find Marvin Oraiha slumped in his car, suffering multiple gunshot wounds. Officers and paramedics attempted to save his life, but he died at the scene. The execution was clinical. The shooters ambushed Oraiha shortly after he returned from his meeting with his girlfriend. They fired multiple rounds at close range, ensuring he had no chance of survival. Within minutes of the murder, residents in 2 different suburbs reported car fires. At Cave Close in Green Valley and Lewis Street in Bonnyrigg Heights, the getaway vehicles were already burning. Security footage captured 2 men running from a black Prado toward a blue Honda Accord on Lewis Street. One of them was allegedly pointing a firearm at civilians as they fled. Crime scene investigators established 3 separate locations for forensic examination. The level of coordination suggested this wasn't the work of amateur criminals. This was organized crime operating with military precision. Who was Marvin Oraiha? Marvin Oraiha was a low-level associate of the Comanchero motorcycle club, Australia's most feared outlaw bikie gang. He wasn't a patched member, but his connections ran deep into Sydney's organized crime networks. Police intelligence revealed Oraiha had links to Alan Meridian, a senior Comanchero figure who himself was murdered just 1 month before Oraiha's death. Meridian was shot dead in an underground car park in Bondi Junction on June 27, 2023. His killing sent shockwaves through Sydney's criminal underworld and triggered a violent power struggle. The Comanchero gang has dominated headlines for years. Founded in 1968 by Scottish immigrant William Jock Ross after watching the John Wayne film The Comancheros, the gang has evolved into a sophisticated transnational organized crime network. They're involved in drug importation, money laundering, extortion, and violent enforcement. In 2023, Alex Vare became the national president after Alan Meehan was convicted of violating a serious crime prevention order. The leadership transition created instability, and various factions competed for control of Sydney's lucrative drug trade. Oraiha's position as a low-level associate made him vulnerable. He wasn't senior enough to have heavy protection, but he knew enough to be dangerous to the wrong people. His murder sparked immediate concern among NSW police that Sydney was entering an escalating gang war. The investigation begins. Liverpool detectives, working with the homicide squad, immediately launched an investigation. The complexity and coordination of the attack indicated this was beyond typical gang violence. State Crime Command's Criminal Group Squad took over. establishing Strike Force Hackenburg to lead the probe. Detectives faced multiple challenges. The burnt-out vehicles eliminated crucial forensic evidence. The shooters wore gloves and avoided leaving DNA at the crime scene. Security footage showed their movements, but identifying them required painstaking analysis of hundreds of hours of CCTV from across Sydney. Investigators discovered the operation involved at least 7 different individuals playing specific roles. Some were surveillance operatives tracking Oraiha throughout the day. Others stole the vehicles used in the attack. The shooters themselves were hired guns, paid to carry out the execution, and someone, the principal organizer, coordinated every element. The breakthrough came from combining traditional detective work with modern technology. Phone records revealed communication patterns between suspects. Financial transactions exposed payments moving through the criminal network. Witnesses came forward with crucial information, though many initially remained silent out of fear. In March 2024, nearly a year after the murder, police arrested a 23-year-old man in Glen Alpine, Sydney's southwest. He was the alleged triggerman, the shooter who fired the fatal rounds. He was taken to Campbelltown Police Station and charged with murder. This arrest was significant, but detectives knew he was just one piece of a larger puzzle. Over the following months, Strike Force Hackenburg arrested 9 more individuals. Each played a specific role in the conspiracy. Some faced charges of accessory to murder. Others were charged with stealing vehicles or destroying evidence. The charges included participation in a criminal group, demonstrating this was organized crime at its most structured. But one person remained elusive, the mastermind who planned the entire operation. Sydney's gang, war context. To understand Oraiha's murder, you need to understand the broader war raging across Sydney. The year 2023 saw unprecedented violence as multiple organized crime groups fought for control of the city's drug market. Sydney is one of the highest consumers of cocaine and methamphetamine in the world. Australia's geographical isolation from drug production centers means prices are extraordinarily high, among the most expensive globally. Only 2 Gulf states with death penalties for drug crimes have slightly higher prices. This creates massive profit opportunities for criminal organizations. The main conflict pitted the Comanchero motorcycle club and their allies, the Alamedan crime network, against the Hamzy clan and their Brothers for Life organization. The violence between these groups claimed more than 20 lives between 2020 and 2023. Alan Muradian's death in June 2023 triggered a wave of retaliatory attacks. Within weeks, Sydney experienced a shocking series of public shootings. In July 2023 alone, 5 targeted shootings occurred in 1 week. High-profile criminal lawyer Mahmoud Abbas was shot and injured in his driveway in Greenacre on July 26th. Hours later, a 28-year-old man was gunned down on Broughton Street in Canterbury, the 5th targeted shooting that week. NS Dollars police responded by creating Task Force Magnus, deploying 100 specialized officers to investigate the connections between shootings and organized crime networks. Police Commissioner Karen Webb described the violence as brazen and a sad indictment of Sydney. "This sickens me, like it sickens everyone else in this state," she said. Deputy Commissioner David Hudson explained the driving force behind the violence. "This is really controlled and driven by the drug trade in Sydney. We are high consumers in this city of illicit drugs, and that drives profits up. Many of these contracts were outsourced to lower-level criminal groups. Senior gang members would recruit young men desperate for money and status to carry out the actual shootings. This created layers of separation between the organizers and the triggermen, making investigations more complex. The Comancheros themselves were experiencing internal turmoil. In 2021, hierarchical members established the Commission, a ruling body designed to mandate a protection tax for anyone importing cocaine and selling it in New South Wales. They promised to control prices and provide protection, but the system created new conflicts as different factions fought over territory and revenue. The principal organizer. For 2.5 years, one person remained beyond the reach of Strike Force Hackenburg detectives, the principal organizer who conceived the entire murder plot. On October 1st, 2025, that changed. At 9:15 a.m., Strike Force detectives arrived at a correctional facility in Silverwater, Western Sydney. They arrested a 29-year-old man already incarcerated on unrelated charges. He was taken to Burwood Local Court that same day and charged with murder and knowingly directing the activities of a criminal group. Police allege this man was the architect of Oraiha's murder. He recruited the surveillance team, who tracked Oraiha at Westfield. He coordinated the vehicle thefts that provided getaway cars. He instructed the shooters on when and where to strike. And crucially, he paid the criminal enterprise that carried out every element of the execution. The allegation that he was operating on behalf of an organized criminal network adds another layer to the case. This wasn't a personal vendetta or spontaneous violence. This was business, a calculated decision by a criminal organization to eliminate someone they viewed as a threat or liability. The fact that the alleged organizer was already in custody when arrested raises important questions. Was he directing operations from inside prison? How did he communicate with operatives on the outside? These details will likely emerge during court proceedings, but they highlight the sophisticated nature of modern organized crime. NSW police refused him bail. The charges of murder and directing criminal group activities carry maximum sentences that could see him imprisoned for life if convicted. The case is now proceeding through the court system. Broader implications. The arrest of the principal organizer represents a significant victory for NSW police, but it also reveals the immense challenge law enforcement faces in combating organized crime. The Comanchero Motorcycle Club operates internationally. In October 2023, Turkish authorities detained 37 full-patch members in Istanbul during a coordinated operation. In New Zealand, police conducted a 3-year investigation, resulting in 137 charges against 41 Comanchero members and associates. Authorities seized 9.2 million New Zealand dollars worth of assets and uncovered a commission scheme, funding military-style training for members. A former U.S. Marine had been brought to New Zealand to train Comanchero members in combat drills and military tactics as part of a ghost team. This level of sophistication goes far beyond traditional gang activity. This is transnational organized crime operating with corporate structure and military discipline. Australian Federal Police have confirmed that many drugs sold by the Comancheros come through the Port of Vancouver, controlled by the East End Vancouver chapter of the Hells Angels. Despite public animosity between these gangs, Assistant Commissioner Jared Taggart explained, "It's that ever-evolving business model of transnational serious and organized crime and their willingness to cooperate together, even when they say that they're enemies." In November 2024, National Task Force Morpheus conducted a coordinated day of action across Australia targeting Comanchero operations. The operation resulted in 33 arrests, 78 charges, seizure of firearms, ammunition, cash, jewelry, drugs including methamphetamine and cocaine, and more than $1.5 million in illicit tobacco and vapes. These operations demonstrate that law enforcement is fighting back, but the challenge is immense. For every gang member arrested, another steps up to fill the void. The enormous profits from drug trafficking ensure there's never a shortage of recruits willing to risk prison or death for their share of the wealth. Conclusion: Marvin Oraiha's murder on May 22, 2023, was a turning point in Sydney's modern gang warfare. The execution-style killing in broad daylight shocked the city and triggered an intensive investigation that ultimately charged 11 people with various roles in the conspiracy. The arrest of the alleged principal organizer on October 1, 2025, brings a measure of justice, but it also highlights a disturbing reality. Organized crime in Australia has evolved into sophisticated transnational networks operating with corporate efficiency and military precision. They recruit specialists for surveillance, hire professional shooters, and have leaders coordinating operations even from behind bars. Sydney's insatiable appetite for illicit drugs fuels this violence. As long as demand remains high and prices remain astronomical, criminal organizations will continue fighting for control of the market. Every arrest creates a temporary power vacuum that triggers more violence as rivals compete to fill it. The Comanchero Motorcycle Club founded in 1968 as a brotherhood of motorcycle enthusiasts, has transformed into one of Australia's most dangerous organized crime networks. They operate in Australia, New Zealand, Southeast Asia, and maintain connections to international cartels in Colombia and Mexico. For the family and friends of Marvin Oraiha, the arrests provide some closure, but his death is just one among dozens in Sydney's ongoing gang war. The criminal group Squad, Strike Force Hackenburg, and specialized task forces continue their work, knowing that ending this violence requires more than arrests. It requires dismantling the entire infrastructure of organized crime. The case remains before the courts. All defendants are presumed innocent until proven guilty.